Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think the impression is kind of given. You listed some different Prop 47, truancy, and so on. That's not the only job of this person. Anywhere you need this person, you can use it.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, any more questions for Stacy, and we'll move on. And I will say at this point, I do support a deputy DA for the DA's office, if we can find the money.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And I leave it in the more than capable hands of the board and Mr. Egan. I thank you for your time. I appreciate your questions. And if there's anything further I can assist with, let me know.
The bottom line, I think the board, we want to see your office succeed because you play a very and you play a very critical, important role, and that's been something the board's been committed to over the years.
Well, I think be careful here. It's kind of been stagnant in the past. Now I want to see the DA's office kind of kick up.
And depending on what the board decides, we will continue to work hard with what we've got, and we will continue to prosecute the cases that we are able to prosecute to the best of our ability, and we will work hard for the people. But whatever the board decides, I think
I'm getting sick and tired of the crime in this community.
I think that's part of the problem with this.
And I'm not pinpointing the DA, the public secretary, the sheriff, and the jail. I'm not pinpointing anybody. It's a problem we have, and we all got to work together to fix it.
Unfortunately, I think a large part of it is statewide. I mean, the passage of Proposition 47 was
I'm not pointing fingers at anybody in this community.
Society in general is not like what it used to
Right.
be. It's changed a lot, and we've got to be able to react to that change and be smart about it.
Yes, a lot of the problem with the community, this might help you, is that you're talking to your constituents. A lot of, I think, part of the problem with the community is that people continue to, it's almost like a revolving door now. But between the realignment and the Proposition 47, people just aren't staying in custody the way they used to. And it's difficult.
With 47, does crime has increased because these people aren't going, like you just said, they're not going
They're
to
not
jail.
staying in custody, so and they're anxious for their next fix. So I think a lot of what the revolving door has to do with, they're anxious for the next fix. They want to find whatever property they can sell and hawk and break into wherever they can break into to get their money for their next high. And I think that's a large part of what we're facing right now.
Well, we have a tendency of comparing about what we're doing now from what happened in the past. The past was a different environment.
Right.
And right, wrong, or indifferent, it fit the dynamics at that time. What we need to do is talk about where we are today and what the future holds and how do we react to that future. And so I guess the fundamental challenge we have is out of 9 basic positions in the office, 4 of them are attorney positions. And is that enough to be able to get the job done? And attorneys are expensive. They're almost as expensive as cops are. So,
Okay, I think there's something different we haven't covered.
I have, perhaps a suggestion just for consideration. The DA also is going to be moving out of our new building that was going to close today or tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be in there next spring. I'm really in hopes that creates some efficiencies for all the departments that go down there. And I don't know if some of these positions maybe are, and I hate to say premature because I know there's a workload right now that needs to be taken care of, but in terms of the organization of the department, the changes that the department's going through, if the DA would consider it might be more appropriate to get into the new facility, maybe consider an overall restructure of the department with some additional resources. I just throw that out there as an opportunity because I'm seeing conflicting information, conflicting data, which makes it difficult to make a solid recommendation. I don't know if that's something that...
Well, if that's something the board would like me to consider, I am certainly willing to do that.
are you in favor of moving down to this new place
Yes, we need the space.
and the location by the court?
Oh, yes, I think it's going to be a lot more efficient for us. And right now, as you know, we're not ADA compliant, so we need to get into a space that's a little bit bigger and be ADA compliant.
Okay, Aaron's got a question, then we're going to move on.
Yes.
Is it possible for you to work with, say, Dean, to get a full-time employee where maybe you guys cost share with your investigative? I mean, I don't know if that's something that you guys can cross over and utilize or not. It's just an idea I'm throwing out there. I don't know if that's...
You know, at this point, I don't know what that would be, but I am certainly willing to talk about it with Dean. I'm open for suggestions.
I can interject at this point on behalf of the Office of County Council, and that is the system is set up with specific checks and balances. You have an elected sheriff and you have a district attorney, and you probably ought not meld the two.
It might be a dangerous combination,
I'm not suggesting that that's not a bad
depending on what type
idea,
of position it is.
but there is independence for a reason, sir.
Okay.
Okay, good enough. Thank you, Stacy.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you, gentlemen.
Who do you want to talk to next?
Say, I don't
I'm the one that here.
see any assessor staff.
I don't understand what we need.
I have discussed with Assessor Sleater the position and told him that I was not going to recommend that the new position be placed in the budget. He, I think, respectfully disagrees.
Good enough. Mr. Anderson, did you have anything? You were asking for another code enforcement officer, which you are not getting.
That, and just wanted to mention that the old saying, if you're not at this table, you're on the menu. I missed the last budget meeting, and
Thank you for your contribution.
and I noticed eyes going forward and open wide that part of the budget for the GIS necessity in the future, this budget year, we contemplated updating our GIS. We certainly need it with our SmartGov program, permit tracking that's going to be initiated this week, hopefully. Part of the building budget was reduced, and it probably wasn't an adequate number, but I've talked to the CAO, and there is still the countywide GIS money in the pot, and I just want to recognize that I may be one to get a piece of that pie earlier than later, and not really on a countywide level, but we need that component to make our new software function. So
What's the LGA grant contractor?
Groundwater.
for where you,
Groundwater?
yeah, that's John Ayers.
Fund 100.
It's fund one, but it's under professional specialized service, you have LGA grant / contractor.
It's a groundwater consultant, Ayers.
And it's offset by a $140,000 grant.
So that's for the ground.
Anyway, and just for the record, I sure could use a code enforcement officer, but I know we could sure use a lot more sheriffs than a lot more.
You have nobody out here now, correct?
Yeah, we have a position filled,
Oh, you did?
isn't at work currently, but we hope to have him back soon.
Okay.
And
So there's been nobody to replace him when he's been off.
in order to balance the budget, because the building is wholly general fund supported, I reduced the request for the abatement funds also from 100 to 75,000.
100 to...
To 75,000, partially in recognition that we're having trouble. We're not recommending a code enforcement officer, which would kind of spend that money. So
Well, and initially that $100,000 was probably a good number to pick. Unfortunately, we had a lot to learn on how to get to the actual abatements, and the abatement we worked on all year actually happened this fiscal year, and that was Collins and Westwood. And so, but now we've forged a path with Stephanie King and Bob's help. We're in a position to go a lot faster on those things, having kind of invented the wheel.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Dean.
Wait, more.
Oh, go back, wait. More.
Got a question. On Fund 588 on the county business parks, on the special department expenses are 887. How come there's a credit there for $6,500? I mean, most everything else went up. For the reason that's
I can answer that, Aaron. In the cost plan, it's a catch-up every 2 years. It's an estimate and then an actual, and the estimates were exceeded the actual expenditure, so he gets a credit back.
Yeah, what she said.
So before you leave, right, the line right above that, I was going to ask the question about the $50,000 for the Westwood parking lot. What's
That's probably snow removal.
special departmental expense? You had 17,000 actual in 12-13, nothing in 13-14, 15-15.
still did some.
That's true, it does snow. That probably is true. Speak of that, Mayor.
I keep asking Larry just to swoop in there, but I guess he's got some rules and regulations he has to comply
It says
with.
Westwood, Jim, just look over it, it's okay. She'll take care of it.
Well, we were talking about how we're trying to find monies for taking care of things, and here's $50,000 that just out of the clear blues there, and it without any background or information or something, so I know that you've got your fingerprints all over it, so. I'm just wanting to know what the 50,000 for me. If we didn't have that, 50,000 would go a long ways to do work in the Family Resource Center in Westwood. So is it this business park thing, or is it the Family Resource Center? It's all good.
Okay, let's move on.
And then on the one.
I didn't get an answer. Is that snow removal?
No,
No, that's a large amount for snow removal. I think it's for perhaps paving, is that correct?
It's reference paving, PVG is probably a reference for paving.
Well, if it's paving, why isn't it in capital improvements? And you got it up in special departmental expense. That to me is an odd place to put a capital improvement. And you've got buildings, improvements, and equipment and assets down below. So I'd like to have somebody
Why don't we get in there?
find out what that is and get back.
Find
because
out
that's,
if you're interested in getting back in there.
Maury.
Maury, I guess,
Is that an easy question to ask?
We're not done with you yet.
Yeah, there was I thought that was resolved, the paving bill from Public Works.
I don't think it is, but I don't think that's, I don't know if that's what that is.
Generally,
We'll research it.
You know, and then in Fund 100, in general fund, if you're planning surveyor, you have publications and legal notices, you haven't had anything in the past, and all of a sudden you're up to 5,500? Why is that?
well, there was nothing in last year's.
No, it's been a blank line straight across, and then all of a sudden, you asked for 8,000.
Well,
and the graph is
I can tell you that Malcolm had a series of reasons to put legals in, and that he wanted a lot of publications, which at that professional level is sort of expected. We don't have a county surveyor right now. If you want to cut that down, that's fine, and we can see what the next surveyor wants to do and wants to
He paid
request.
for out of his own pocket, was that the reason why there was nothing?
Pardon me?
I think it must have been taken out of a different budget line item in the past years because there was no expenditure.
You know, there's no actuals or recommended. No, I'm just curious.
Okay, well, maybe we can look into it and just find out. Okay, are we done with Mr. Anderson now?
For now.
Yeah,
For now we are.
only
Okay.
the roof.
No, you can go wherever you want.
No, I don't want to leave this room. I'm afraid.
So do you have enough people? How many
And
people do you have?
in code enforcement? No.
No, I'm talking about planning.
I think, let's see.
Wow, we got like a half a page here.
I'll sit down now. That was rhetorical, I could tell.
Run, Maury, run.
Okay, we're moving on. Dean, did you have anything you wanted to? I think we give you everything you asked for.
For the most part, yeah.
Are you done?
Of course. No, I appreciate that. Actually, I don't have anything really to report. Just a couple things to note. One is if the budget's approved the way Mr. Egan recommended, we are going to be paying off that federal loan or that federal grant for that building in Westwood, which would give us that facility behind the community center uses a substation.
Is that building with the 50,000 for the parking? Is that
It is.
Maybe that's why that they're doing the parking then.
I don't think so.
No.
But
The paving's really nice.
You have to do some
The
work
paving's
on it.
rather new.
The building had to be remodeled, redid.
it did, and grant money, if I understand right, Moore's leaving, but
Not as good.
grant money was used to do that remodel, and that's why we have to pay off that grant now, if we want to use that building for county purposes. So that's in there, that's something of note.
It was supposed to be an incubator for bringing in jobs.
Right.
Yeah, and it's sitting vacant, and we can really use it. So I appreciate that. That would be a big benefit to us. We're really trying to get out into the community and establish those substations. Nothing else really that I need to talk about, but I wanted to answer any questions you guys might have.
Did you get everything you asked for from Richard?
Pretty close. And there's a couple things. There's one. But I'll work it out with Richard. If we end up there are a couple that are like pass-through accounts where there were some reductions, but most of the time we spend less than what's appropriated each year. Anyways. One of them is what we use for Homeland Security grants. We use to buy equipment in partnership with OES for fire departments, law, agencies around the county. And that one, it got reduced a little bit, but I think we'll be able to work within it, and if we need an additional appropriation, we'll come back.
Good. So before we move on, I just have one question, and this is meant to, hopefully to demonstrate positive support. One of the criticisms we see out on social media is that law enforcement is not getting their fair share. They're not being taken care of it with priorities. So with Richard, your budget that you're recommending, that we're being asked to vote on, where are we in relationship to before, present, and the future in terms of funding for law enforcement? Are we down? Are we even? Or are we above? I mean, I think I want to know so that when I get challenged that, oh, you're not for law enforcement because you don't spend enough money on them, I want to be able to say that that's who we just increase the allocation by 1.5 million or 500,000 or 10 million, whatever the dollar is, because I think it's important that the public understands that public safety has been the number one priority of the board here for years, and that, you know, just like we see at the state budget where schools seem to be the dominant partner in there, in the state budget sucking up and using the resources to take care of that need, that we've made the emphasis be law enforcement. That's not just the sheriff. It includes probation, it includes public defender and DA, and I mean, it's across the board, public safety as a whole. So I think it's important, especially with some of the people who are chattering out on social media that have not a clue what the facts are. But it's really great to say that because it sounds good out on the street in terms of whipping up public emotions and pitting one group against another group and using that to that effect. And I think that that's totally bogus, and I think part of our job, we have a responsibility, is to make sure that the public is informed of what the facts are. And I think law enforcement, and sure, if we get this tax, negative flow tax thing, property tax, and we wind up getting an extra $600,000 or $1 million in property tax shifted to us, guaranteed that the biggest chunk of that money is going to probably go to use to enhance and benefit, you know, the public safety priority. I mean, if we've got the resources, that's there. I mean, you can take us to task for not giving the resources, we don't have them. But I think that's, to me, is real important. And the fact that the sheriff's not up here at the podium with the shoe banging on it like in some years past, wanting more. I mean, Dean's been excellent to work with. You know, wanting more, I think is, you know, speaks loudly that your recommendation, because at the budget committee meeting, we had a couple kind of tense sessions there where we were talking about, you know, how some of the numbers are going to break out and what was going to be included and not. So obviously you made some good progress to you, and I appreciate that.
And I appreciate your support, and I've always said that, you know, when it comes to budgetary requests. And one thing I hope you guys appreciate is I haven't asked for things I haven't needed.
I know.
You know, and I don't want to muddy the waters. I'm not going to talk about bargaining.
We've had money sitting there waiting to get the lock system at the jail. That's a $400,000 investment there, and it wasn't the money that was holding it up. It was getting the technological wherewithal in place, and now you got a contract with the contractors that's going to do everybody an amazing good thing. But you know, so there's been a lot of money that's been put into maintaining and trying to improve the facilities and stuff. So I just want to make sure that that doesn't get dismissed, because I think it's important to the public to know that, you know, if there's a need there, we're going to get that grinder fixed too, so you can, you know, maybe we ought to, well, we've replaced the new one 3 times. I think we need a couple extra ones so that we can hopefully not shut down.
Well, it's a challenging time for us. It is. I mean, as the issues Stacy's saying, we're seeing. It's a challenging time in law enforcement altogether. There is a lot of crime, and we've seen that increase.
And I'm pointing at you.
No, but hey, it's just a fact. It's a fact. So, you know, I don't want to. I appreciate your guys' support. I'm not going to delve into the whole bargaining issue.
Yeah, but 3 years ago in the budget, or 4 years ago, it was 2011. you know, I was determined we were going to get some additional staffing, because we talked about, like Stacy's saying, I need bodies, and I know you had a lot of vacancies that you were still trying to fill, and so being told, here's 3 more people, it just added to your vacancy load at the point, trying to find the right people. It cost us like $200,000 or $340,000 to fund these positions, and law enforcement positions aren't cheap. I mean, they're not a dime a dozen. I mean, it costs a lot to put an officer on the street. You know that better than anybody in terms of what the costs are. But if we, you know, maybe the mistake we made then is putting more positions. Maybe we should have taken that money and made all the positions that were there get paid more, but they would have to work covering, stretching over. You know, 4,500 square miles is a lot of territory. So somewhere we got to find that balance. But I want to make sure that we are taking care of public safety.
I want to know one more thing, and actually, you know, one issue we do have with turnover, we're trying to figure out different options to fill vacancies. That's one of our big issues. We're stretched right now, and you know, it's hard to cover those 4,500 square miles with, right now I think I have effectively like 13 deputies to cover the whole county. And that's obviously not at one time. Sometimes we have 1 deputy on half the day. But we did, one thing I want to thank you guys for is approving the training budget in the patrol line. We bumped that, I think, to 90,000 or thereabouts, with the goal of sending 4 people a year to the police academy. We're hoping that will help slow down that turnover. And right now we have a job flyer out there, and I haven't done a great job. It's in some of the papers up in Beaver, but we put a preference for Big Valley. I've had a real difficulty filling those positions, and I need someone who lives in that area, who wants to serve that area. It doesn't work hiring him and sending him up there, because they really don't care. They really don't care about that community.
You have one in school right now, don't you?
What's that? School resource officer?
Going to the academy.
Oh, yes, we have 2 right now. Yes, we have 2 people going, and that's the first part of that $90,000. They're in there right now. And our goal is in January to send 2 more, and hopefully send someone from Beaver. So we're trying to get the word out. That flyer, that recruiting closes the 25th, Aaron. So if you know anyone up there who might be interested in going to the academy, we're going to have our people distribute it better up there, make sure we get the word out. But that's another one I'd like to thank you for. That's a big deal for us. We can't keep trying to do the same things and expect different results, right? So we're trying something different, and hopefully it'll help us. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Dean.
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
The first one is, as I was trying to come with, you got some income coming in, is the Title III. I know a couple of years ago you took the majority of that. Is that still working for you? And how long is that good for, Julie, the Title III for the sheriff? Is that good until it's all used up? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
The money that the board approved a couple years ago, I can only distribute it to the sheriff's department when they use it for search and rescue activities on forest lands.
On an emergency type basis, yeah.
Yeah, so we can't, it's real narrow what we can use it for, but the good thing is if we had have a major incident on national forest land, we could tap into those funds to cover costs.
Then the other question I had, I noticed you had your sheriff boat patrol that's backed up quite a bit this year. Is that because you're going to have to use a rowboat to take your
Well, part of that is actually we're going to use some old residual money in that line to help pay for that building in Westwood, because we intend, obviously it's a shame Walker Lake is dry right now, but our intent, we've always had an issue with patrolling that lake. Our goal is to keep some of the snowmobiles. We actually, that budget, we actually do most of our contract patrols, our off-highway patrol, vehicle patrols. We patrol over the snow and Fort Sage and Rice Canyon. So it's more than just boat patrol. There's other grant money that cycle through that line. But we are going to use some of that residual money to help buy that building or pay off that grant so we can use that building in Westwood. And then we'll keep the snowmobiles, probably some off-highway vehicles, and a boat that we'll be getting at some point, a shallow water boat.
Any more questions?
Yeah. And I want to kind of talk back to the staffing, and I appreciate Dean sharing that he's got 13 functional deputies right now. So besides the sheriff and undersheriff, you've got the captain and 6 sergeants and 20 deputy sheriff positions. So out of the 20 positions, you basically have 13 functional deputies, is what you're saying?
I'd have to go through the books right now. Problem is between work comp, maternity, vacancies, everything else. Oh, and 2 of those are in the academy right now. By the time you weed down through those positions, the number you have on the road is pretty slim. But luckily,
in terms of getting your fund, I mean, obviously 20 would be, if you had 20 for 20, that would be good. But at what level, just so I know, so I can have something I can spend the balance of my time looking for, and if if you could make it happen, what would be the number you'd like to have so you could have, what, in terms of feeling comfortable functional deputy-wise, is it 15, 18, 20? I mean, you don't come back and say 40 like some people.
No, our long-term goal is to get to where we can do 24-hour patrol. Obviously, we don't have anyone on in wee hours in the morning right now.
And how many positions would it take that are functional to be able to do 24-hour patrol?
It's going to take filled positions between 24 and 28, depending on your staffing patterns.
Okay. So we're basically half of where we need to be able to do that. That's the answer.
Right now, we're slim in the morning, we're slim late at night, and we try to compress the people that we have available during the highest call volume of times. But that's a challenge this week.
And the balance is, do we pay more and work with less, or do we go for quantity and hope we get quality?
I think it's going to be a combination. But
Yeah.
I think the academy is going to be a huge one for us. If we can send the right people to the academy who are from our community and want to work here, those are the people who we've historically kept. I mean, those are the ones that are.
We don't have turnover at the higher echelons. It's basically at that entry level that we have.
There's a big gap in experience between like our sergeant, the guys that stayed long enough to become skilled enough to become sergeant, and the line staff is pretty big.
And I think the public needs to appreciate what that struggle you have and the board has and the county has in terms of trying to make that all work. It's easy to say it rather than do it. And we have a lot of people saying a lot of things, but the ability to do it is pretty minimal.
Come walk in my shoes for a couple of weeks.
Exactly. I've hung out enough around you to know that I'm not going to walk in your shoes.
Thank you.
Okay, we're doing it, Dean, for now.
But I did have an answer to your, I don't know if you were looking for an answer to your question. But,
Yes.
You asked me earlier today, about the relativity of public safety funding versus county, if it's been stable or increasing or decreasing. I didn't have enough time to do a lot of in-depth research, but just for some indication, I can give you the budgeted expenditures for public safety over the past 4 years, and I think they show a trend. And I'll just go through from 2012 to 13, that amount was $9.768 million. In 13-14, it was $10.727 million. In 14-15, it was $10.813 million, and the proposed or the recommended budget for 15-16 is $11.681 million. So it's not a perfect data for analysis, but it shows.
That would also include the capital projects along with, was that?
That would include the 130 fund. So not the capital that's funded out of the.
So like projects
like
the locks, the new locks for the jail, and so that wouldn't be included.
So it shows, I think a increasing trend of support for that in terms of dollars, which isn't always.
So this would be sheriff, jail, probation, VA, all the public.
So public defender, district attorney, sheriff, jail. Am I missing something? Not probation. I think that's it.
Dean.
I've got one more thing of note. In our revenue, we increased our revenue quite a bit this year. We're getting a lot of offenders from the state prison, and we're able to bill just like the district attorney is for any costs incurred related to the prisons themselves, or even the coroner's work we do. Every coroner's case at the prison, obviously, I have to investigate. We have to do an autopsy on every single death at the prison. So my staff has done a great job at keeping track of those things. So our revenues have gone to from around 100,000 years past. I think we got almost 300,000 this last year, and we projected 300,000 for this year. So that's going to help. And so we'll see.
Thank you, Dean. Okay. Where we at? Mr. Anderson, you had it up here 1 minute ago.
I wanted to explain the 50. Dean reminded me that was the cost of paying off the USDA note for the incubator building in Westwood, which the sheriff was.
The 50,000.
Pardon me?
The 50,000.
Yeah, that's like 49 and change. And then the other item in the surveyor budget was the cost of, mostly the cost is for recruitment for replacement survey, which at that level are very expensive, unbelievably expensive for recruitment. So
Thank you for that information.
you know,
Anybody else, any other department head, Mel, or anybody have anything they wish to bring to our attention?
Mel spends most of the money. It'd be kind of a shame not to hear from her.
He gives you most of the money. So you can spend it.
Well, we do spend a lot of money, but we also draw down a lot of money from the state and the feds. And this year, our budget is just over $40 million.